have another one here. He says, my tenant sort of house hacked my house. Oh, uh-oh. I found out that he had 4 other people living in there that were not listed in the lease agreement. As a property management company, how do you handle it if there are multiple tenants living in a property? So it sounds like your tenant is subletting the property. So yikes. I always worry about that.
Or sure, sharing the rent.
Yeah.
I've got my opinion. Go for it.
Yeah.
So for this one, it really kind of depends. Meaning, if you know that, what is the condition of the house at the moment? In these times, if they're paying rent, it's almost something you kind of want to leave alone. Not saying that you shouldn't do anything. I think you should make them aware that you're aware. I would get all the contact information, including, license and credit if you can, if they're willing to provide. And, I'd push for it and try to push some kind of penalty. I mean, it's probably something that you could evict for because it's not for non-payment rent, but is this really something that you want to go after? So again, it just kind of depends if, they're keeping your house maintained well. Is it really hurting you? I mean, what's like, I always ask the question like, hey, what's the crime here? What's going on? I mean, if it were for not these additional tenants, would the tenant that you have living there unable to pay rent? If you find a way to kick them all out, and then the tenant that you do have signed is not able to pay rent, then you're kind of back in a worse situation than you were to begin with.
Yeah, we've only had that once, at least that I'm aware of, and we didn't have any issue. We just said, hey, we got to get you on the lease. And before we could do that, you got to fill out an application because I wanted all the contact info. And just for CYA, I ran their background check and we made them pay an app fee. That way, I mean, they didn't accidentally put someone with a sex crime in there or whatever. It was just CYA. So that we got their information, put them on the lease. And then of course, now we had information to evict if needed. But otherwise, I would agree with Jerry. If they're not damaging the property, I mean, and it's okay. Like,
and you're not liable for anything. Yeah. Like, I would be worried about being liable for something. But
right. I mean, my recommendation is to get their IDs, get a tally of who's living in the house, and amend the lease to get them all on it, and then make them all responsible so everyone has a stake in making sure that the property's well maintained.
Yeah, and making sure you're not overreaching occupancy limits. If that's a 1-bedroom condo, maybe a different story than if it's a 3-bedroom house.